Yes. Yes.
So we were talking last time, Nivedita, about husbands trying to teach wives how to drive
Yes.
car. I would recommend that this not be done
Mm,
because not that the husbands are incapable. Of course, they are capable.
mm,
We in the military pride ourselves in being very good teachers and instructors.
mm.
You can't be a good commander unless you're a good teacher and instructor because you're teaching and instructing all your life. But when it comes to family, somehow it doesn't seem to work too well. I don't know if you've had that experience. You see, what happens is that your near ones and dear ones are so close to you, and since you're the one who married the lady or the lady married the man, these are your children.
Mm,
Think they are superior. Therefore, when they don't
mm.
understand something, you sort of tend to lose your shirt a bit. Whereas with somebody else, you can be gentle. With family, you're somehow not that gentle.
Mm.
So after, suddenly a truck arrived on a mountain road with many hairpin bends on it. And it's a question of, I think God saved us that day because here I was pulling the handbrake, which is between the driver and
Right.
the side seat in a
Mm.
Fiat car. And luckily, the switch of the engine is also in the center of the dash. Switched that off and pulled this brake. So the car had to come to a halt because it was in gear. And so if the engine switches off, the engine itself stops the car.
Right.
And we were on the edge of the road and we managed to stop in time.
Mm.
And while the shouting match was going on, I noticed that the truck driver,
Mm.
he had acted extremely well because he also came around the corner on his side. And he suddenly saw this car lurch at him, you see.
Yeah.
He went hard over against he was on the hillside, we were on the cut side.
Oh.
And he went into the drain took his wheels into
Ah.
the drain.
Oh.
Luckily, he was not loaded because the loaded truck never puts his wheel into the drain because if it imbalances, it tipples over.
Right.
So he was an empty truck, and Tamil drivers are very good, and they're very good in the hills. And he looked at us, saw that there was a bit of a argument going on there, just put a supercilious smile on his face and drove on. Naturally, I think my wife put me in the doghouse for a few days after that. You know what the doghouse?
Ah, yes.
You know what the
Yes.
doghouse is? A famous weapon of the ladies. They
Uh,
have may not have the physical strength, but they've got this, huh?
hmm.
The mental. To put the man in the doghouse, what happens is that normally in a house, if the dog has misbehaved, done his business on the carpet or something, then there is a wooden little, room, small room. The dog is sent into that. That's called the doghouse. It's out in the garden, and he's barred from the home, and he's chained over there. You get the food. He whimpers away for a day or two. Then he learns his lesson. Then you can bring him in again. The mental doghouse is that the wife literally, doesn't speak. And she'll do all the duties, getting the food done and this and that, and looking after the ship-shapedness of the house.
Hmm.
Man is out, mentally out. You've got to apologize profusely and, woo the lady again to bring her back to normal. Thing is that Supi was quite disgusted with any shouting. She's a very high performance lady.
Hmm.
And if you don't correctly handle the high performance lady, she's going to let you have it.
Right.
So, so I learned my lesson. And the lesson here is that firstly, never select hill roads for driving. Go to a plain area where you can do whatever mistake you like and there's no sudden traffic coming at you.
Hmm.
And secondly, uh, take a very deep breath if you're teaching family. I taught my son how to drive right from the age of 12, since I had learned at the age of 12. And I started with putting him on my lap and teaching him the steering, and then all the gears and this and that, but always on a plain piece of ground, since I'd learned my lesson with my wife. And I think I was at fault. And once you realize that you are at fault, and your partner also realizes that you have realized that you are at fault, that's all forgiven and forgotten. I'll continue with driving lessons, because what happens is we still haven't finished with the staff college. But at the end of that course, you are posted to various areas.
Okay.
Yes, posted to an operational field area in Jammu and Kashmir. That's in the Kashmir Valley, actually. A place called Baramulla,
Yeah.
to a division on that staff. And I knew I had to drive my car, because the government of India has a certain amount of lopsided thinking right from the ancient days. If you are posted to a peace station, you are permitted to carry wife, family, car at government expense to whichever peace station you've gone into.
Right.
Plus, you get 3 or 4 weeks of joining time so that you can arrange your affairs, bring your family there and all that, make sure what sort of accommodation you got and blah, blah. But if you're posted to a field area and the ladies are not permitted to go to the field area, right? You get nothing. You get nothing. Not even a payment for shifting house. So it took many years of effort to explain to the powers that be, mostly audits and accounts and things, to say that when a man is posted to a field station, he certainly has to put his wife somewhere. If he's in deep South India, for instance, and she belongs to Jammu, then we have to take her there and set her up somewhere and pay for her accommodation and all that sort of thing. So we get nothing, no money for that. It took us time to make the government understand that. But nevertheless, I realized that I had to drive. I didn't have the money to put the car into a wagon and get it sent by rail, nor was I permitted. I didn't have the funds for that, because unless you get the funds, you can't do that. To shift a whole house. So I thought the best is that we pay for whatever it is to shift the baggage to some central place. Now, my father had a home in Delhi, so I said we'll send it there, which we paid for. And then to save the expenses of travel, to drive my own car all the way from Uttarakhand Hills in the south, it's the Nilgiri Hills of Tamil Nadu, to Jammu and Kashmir. Now that's the whole length of India. From far north, I mean, from deep south to far north. Now that takes a number of days. So I thought that I may not be able to be driving all the time. You're driving all day, all right, you halt somewhere for the night. So there would be occasions when I'd like some relief. So my wife had to learn. So I trained her very carefully after that. And about a month before our postings, before we actually had to leave Wellington, we decided to get her a driving license.
Okay.
So I traveled the car to Uttarakhand. Which is about 45 minutes an hour's drive. And I checked up about the regional transport officer, RTO in normal language, who dishes out the license. I checked up with many other friends in the staff college, including instructors. How do we manage this RTO? So they said, well, he's a stickler for good driving in the hills, because, South India is very careful about driving in the hills, much more than Punjab.
Right.
Or much more than UP or hills in the north. As a side issue, I must tell you that I was insured with Prudential Insurance Company in those days. And so when I reached Wellington from Punjab, Kapurthala, I had to inform them my change of address. When I informed them my change of address, I had already paid the full amount for my car insurance, comprehensive insurance, which in those days was not much. It's about 600 or 700 rupees. They sent me half the amount back. They sent me back for 350 bucks. So I wrote to them, I said, look here, why have you sent half my fees back? I thought it might be a mistake and I may have to pay back sometime later. They answered that since you have moved to Tamil Nadu, the insurance fees in Tamil Nadu are half, 50% of what they are
Wow.
in North India, right?
My
Why?
God.
So those chaps are sensible drivers with wisdom. North Indians are not.
Oh my God. Huh.
They got money back. So that's why, now for instance, you're driving up the Uttarakhand hills. There are a lot of hairpin bend because you're going from almost 300 or 400 feet above sea level to about 8,000 feet.
Hmm, hmm.
Lot of hairpin bends and things. And if a series of trucks or trailers or buses are coming down, day or night, they see you coming up because there's hairpin bends in your car. Fiat is a small car. They'll stop on top there, go hard on the left of the road, switch on, especially if it's dark, they switch on their side lights, not the headlights, for you to pass. We saw that twice or thrice, and then I sort of waved out to them, thank you. I checked up with people. He said, that's the form of driving in the hills, which nobody in North India knows anything about. So there are very few accidents there. See? Anyway, so the RTO is very, very strict before he dishes out a license. Not like in North India where you pay a little under the table and you get a license, especially the truck drivers and the trailer drivers. So I checked up on this and they said that, you're on a higher road when you arrive at his office. He's about 100 feet lower than the road. And there's a little bend in the track that goes from the higher road down to his area, where is the parking place.
Hmm.
And he's got a window looking at his gate.
Oh.
So according to the appointment, he's sitting on his window looking out to see how you manage the car. When you come into slight bend and down the slope to come down.
Oh my God.
So I trained Rupi very well. I selected a similar road in Wellington and made her do it about 20 times. And she did it quite well. So I drove right up to the area where we had to turn left, because it's a hill road and a lot of trees and things. So I was covered from his vision. And just about a few yards from the turning, I got off, engine running. I said, Rupi, now you take over the wheel. I'll sit on the side and you put a confident smile on your face. There's a bit of bend on the road, go slowly, put it number 1 gear. And she did it beautifully. She did very well. So very confidently, I walked up to this fellow inside. And he was facing towards the window. He turned around because his dealing window was used on the inside. And I said, Mr. RTO, I want the license for my wife. You saw her driving. Jolly good, He said, General, I was a major. She said, Major, what you do is tell her to take the car back up there to the gate and come down this road backwards.
Okay. Oh my God.
You see? So I said, why do you want to do that?
Huh.
He said, no, we have to make sure that the handling of the car is 100%. Whether it's on a slope or whether it's not on a slope, or whether going forwards or whether it's going backwards, there's a lot of accidents take place. So you do that and I'll give you the license. So I drove the car up, positioned it correctly and told Ruby, you start driving backwards in the reverse gear. Don't press the accelerator at all, just let it slide. And there's a slight bend, and I'm walking on the side. I'll tell you when to turn a bit, and land up. It's just, very easy. But she was nervous. And so as we started going back, she was not handling the steering properly. If she had to turn right, she was turning left, and so there's a big cut on both sides. I said, halt. So I brought the car back myself. And I walked up to this chap confidently and said, license for my wife. He said, Major, she's not fit to drive because she couldn't back down the road. You had to take over the car and bring it down. So I said, Mr. RTO, I've been posted from Wellington, deep south of India, to Baramulla, far north of India, to drive in my car. You think I can drive myself all the way? She has to take over the driving. And let me tell you, we're not going to drive backwards, we're going to drive forwards. He stared at me and I stared back at him. I was ready to punch him on the nose. I stared back at him. I was in my uniform. And they have a lot of respect for military people. He said, Major, I'll give you the license.
Hmm.
Your car and it's your wife. God help you. God help you. I got a driving license. And the result of this is that we traveled all this 2,500 odd kilometers or whatever it is over a period of 3 or 4 days. We stopped for 10 days in Delhi. I had to drive every bit of the way. She was not fit to take it on, especially in the hill roads,
Right.
mining roads. Anyway, that's rupee and a license. And anyway, I dropped her at Jammu because her parents were in Jammu.
Hmm.
And what I did was that in Jammu, I had a couple of days, so I kept on making her drive with me very slowly. And when I had to go to the airport in Jammu to catch the flight to Srinagar, because Baramulla is beyond Srinagar, you have to take a vehicle for that. And then I told her there was nobody else in the house because her father was a doctor working, her mother was a doctor working. They had no time to escort people to the airport and back. So I sat beside her and she drove very slowly to the airport. And after that, I got my boarding pass and all that. And I said, now, Thrupi, you're going to drive all the way back yourself. She was alone in the car. I said, keep it in number one gear if you like. Keep on the left of the road, we'll manage. Then I flew off. I was back in Srinagar in another half an hour's flight or 40 minutes flight. The moment I landed up there, I rang her up. I said, are you back home? She said, no, cell phones were not working. I rang up on the landline to her mother. I said, is she back home yet? She said, no, she's not back home. I said, please take a car and go down. If she's stuck somewhere, you help her out. She said, all right, I'll see that I've got a couple of patients. I'll see them and see what I can do. But she managed to go. And by the time I reached Baramulla, where I was posted, I found that she had arrived safe and sound. Now that business of driving her car, because the airport is at a lower height, and Jammu also has a few hill roads and things before you reach the town. She managed to do that very well, and so I was quite happy with that. That's the story of the license. Now we go back to staff college. As I told you, Sam Manekshaw pushed off within the first term. The course, instead of being 10 months, was reduced to 7 months. And some retired officer, Major General Somdat or somebody his name was, for whom we had no time at all because he wasn't the spark that in comparison with Sam Manekshaw, you see. So he's a very good officer, but we took no notice of him. And we had to suffer whatever the directing staff said. We had a lot of arguments because many of us didn't agree with what was being taught. Staff college has, besides the first tutorial, which I told you to teach you how to handle written work and how to make orders and things as your commander wants you to. The remaining 4 or 5 tutorials are all about tactical exercises on the ground. When you're taken to various hill features and all, and you make tactical plans. And you're also given all sorts of problems which you've never heard of or seen of before in your life. And the scene here is you have to come to a solution, whatever it is. And therefore, the idea here is that if somebody throws a problem at you, which you've never heard of, seen of before, you know nothing about it. You have to be sharp enough to, according to the directing staff, logically come to a method of attacking that problem and coming to a conclusion, a reasonable conclusion. It may not be the best, it could be the worst, but it's a solution. The idea is to get to a solution rather than leave it up in the air. That's a very good training for people to, whatever has to be done, to come to a solution as to how it's going to be done. Right? I must tell you here that in military tactics, when you're facing the enemy, there are very laid down procedures as to how to tackle the problem.
Okay.
But things go wrong. And when things go wrong, you have not planned for it. And you may be caught in a position where you don't know what to do. You must have the sharpness of intellect to decide what to do, whatever it is, but you have to do something. That means action is better than keeping still, right? Even when you, for all the enemies firepower and others, an attack coming, people are dying left, right, and center. You've got to find the solution and get out of it for whatever you want, right? So we try and train you for that. We have a large number of tactical exercises on the ground, and then you have telephone battles. A telephone battle is that you may, amongst the students, be formed into, let us say, a division with a student officer being made the major general with people on his staff. And you've got appointed brigadiers commanding brigade. Now you see, a lieutenant colonel will command about 800 men or 700 or 600 men in a battalion, right? Or a tank regiment. But then a brigadier will command 3 such.
Oh.
So he got greater responsibility. He gets a little more pay. He wears a little flag. And he's got a stick in his hand also. And he has to run these 3 lieutenant colonels in those days, now full colonels, commanding these 3 or 4 units which have been placed under his command, right? And if you become a general, you got 3 or 4 of these brigadiers under your command with that amount. So if a lieutenant colonel in those days, or colonel nowadays, since it's been upgraded the rank, command, let us say 700 or 800 men or 600 men in battle, the brigade commander will be commanding about 3,500. And the general will be commanding about 12,000 to 15,000, right? And secondly, by the time you become the major general commanding a division, as we call it, not only you have 3 of these brigades, but you have an artillery brigade, you have engineers under your command, you have all the services, the medical, the supply, the ordnance, everything under your command. So it's become a fighting unit, right? It's got everything. So we run those exercises. And I've noticed that the internet connection is a bit unstable.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Your audio is being recorded. Visual is frozen, but I'm sure it will come back as soon as the.
Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. You can continue.
Fine. So I'll just tell you 1 or 2 incidents just to give